The Boston Celtics sadly fall short to the Indiana Pacers in their first in-season tournament game in the quarterfinals, 122 to 112, and it's because of a lack of three-point shooting from the Boston Celtics in tonight's game. Lots of turnovers and maybe not the greatest defense on the perimeter. We'll be looking into the concerns at the Boston Celtics and what they need to fix to help them get a better record to this season. I'm here with my boy Isaac here, and we're going to be doing a nice duo video for you guys here on Celtics Digest. But just before we get into the Celtics content, I would like to say that we just hit 2,400 subscribers, and we're so close to getting our goal of 3,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to make sure you guys stay up to date on everything Boston Celtics, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we provide daily Boston Celtics content for you guys. No other Celtics channel is bringing that to you guys, and we've got that here on Celtics Digest. But let's get into the news at hand, talking about how the Celtics lose an important game here, 122 to 112, the quarterfinal game versus the Indiana Pacers. And we're going to be looking at the team stats here, and I want to break it down with Isaac here. Isaac, let me know what you see from the Celtics here from the team stats so far.
Oh, I will, Bruce. And thanks for the lovely introduction. I appreciate it. So, based off with these stats, I don't think the Celtics played a bad game until the second half. First half, they were playing scrappy, and the Pacers were playing with that scrappiness as well. I mean, look at the stats here. I mean, the rebound, they won the rebounding game, the least defensive rebounds. Offensive rebounds, they won too. They won the rebounding whole game. And, the Pacers did not rebound them because the Celtics have a great front court. To me, I just felt like it was just mostly that collapse in the third quarter where they weren't shooting well. Their percentage dropped drastically, and I just felt like it was more of like a brain fog, or let's say like when one has writer's block, and that's what really killed the Celtics just based off this. Like the stats, we can go through the stats, but to be honest, both played it up until halftime for that first half. It looked like we were talking prior getting on this duo. I was expecting an overtime game just based off the stats alone.
Yeah, it was a neck-to-neck battle, a very physical contest between, I think, both teams in the Celtics and the Pacers early on. And like you said, that third quarter collapse that seemingly always seems to happen in recent games since we've seen this year, even going back to last year. It just always happens with this Boston Celtics team. I don't know what it is in the locker room. I don't know what is with the players. Maybe they get a little bit too comfortable. But ultimately, it just does not help out the Boston Celtics, especially when you shoot terribly from three-point range. If we want to look at the stats here, we can see that the Celtics as a team shot under 30% from three compared to the Pacers shooting 50%. And Tyrese Haliburton actually had more threes, I believe, than the Boston Celtics as a whole by himself, which is just a crazy stat to look at. Tyrese Haliburton obviously playing his second time on national television and having a triple-double, his first career triple-double. We got to give him his flowers there. And the Celtics also just struggling from the free throw line again, shooting around 66% from the free throw line, just not the greatest thing. And the turnovers just not great as well. 17 turnovers compared to the Pacers 6. But if we want to look at the box score here, Isaac, I want you to talk to me about a player that surprisingly shocked you tonight, positively or negatively, from the Boston Celtics.
Big shout out to Sam Hauser, and I've become a big fan of him, despite my college objections to where he played at college. But that's neither here or there. Sam Hauser stepped up with a positive +9 on the plus and minus with 15 points. That's great for him. And then Luke Kornet, your boy, your guy, although the points don't show that he was out there effective, you can see based off across the board with his stats with rebounding, assist, that he was just kind of everywhere being that glue guy, being that Kurt Rambis. I know that's blasphemous for us as Celtics fans and as Celtics supporters to say Kurt Rambis, a Laker, but Luke Kornet was playing in essentially that role without the physicality, just being there. So shout out to the bench with Sam Hauser and Luke Kornet. Now, I know Celtics fans are going to be kind of concerned with Jaylen Brown scoring 30 points and being -10 on the plus or minus, meaning that he's essentially based off these analytic guys. He's not helpful. Now, I wanted to disagree with that and be a devil's advocate, and I know everyone in the comments is going to freak out on me. So be it. Jaylen Brown has proven that he can score high, but he just got to get everybody involved. I mean, if you notice his stats, he didn't have any assist. He needs to get people involved when he scores. And I feel like, in my opinion, a pattern that should be kind of ingrained in him at this point. He's like, hey, when I score, I got to get someone else involved. I got to get someone in the bench involved. I got to get someone in the starters involved. Like drive and kick. That same mentality has to go through there so we can get that plus and minus up, and he can be more effective on the floor rather than being the second leading scorer for a top team in the NBA and be essentially like, well, he's scoring all of our points, but he's not effective either. So I feel like that's just kind of the pattern Jaylen Brown's got to get there. So Celtics fans, don't I guess in a sense, don't be so alarmed by everything with Jaylen Brown. Look at the positives with Luke Kornet, look at the positives with Sam Hauser, and just hopefully Jaylen Brown kind of gets that, realizes that's the pattern. It's like, hey, when I score, I got to get everybody else involved. It can't be just me. You got a whole team around you of all-stars and future Hall of Famers.
I totally agree with you, Isaac. Like you just said, Jaylen Brown not getting the other players involved, giving the assists, helping out the other players is necessary for this team, as we've seen in some of these games where Jaylen Brown has commanded the offensive lead, that Jayson Tatum doesn't get a lot of second half shots and a lot of second half actual opportunities to coast for this offense. Jaylen Brown kind of takes those shots and, will prioritize doing that. And, in a game where he's, making those baskets, it is necessary for him to take over the offense a little bit. But he's also he needs to be not selfish with the ball. He needs to be looking at his other teammates. Looking at another guy like Derrick White or Jrue Holiday, those guys are both so unselfish for this Boston Celtics team. Making hustle plays, diving up for loose balls, making sure they make the right pass every time. We've seen Celtics ball moving around the perimeter work tremendously for sometimes with lineups with Holiday, White, Pritchard, Hauser. They pass all around the perimeter, finding each other, looking for each other. That's not really happening with Jaylen Brown. When Jaylen Brown gets the ball, he either will look for a shot or look for a nice little pump fake hesitation and try to drive to the basket. But that's something that necessarily needs to be worked on. I like how you mentioned the great game by Sam Hauser as well. He was the true sharpshooter for this Boston Celtics team. And like I've said, he's always been impactful for this Celtics bench. I think he's the true spark plug. Same thing with Luke Kornet. He had some impactful offensive rebounds, impactful blocks, and some really cool lobs that he caught as well. And Dalano Banton also had a little bit of some versatility with the size and helping with the rebounding from this Boston Celtics team. I can see him being more used as a defensive piece, maybe even like a wing stopper for this Boston Celtics team as well. Not the greatest game from Jayson Tatum. Not the greatest shooting night. Had a lot of rebounds for the Celtics, 12 rebounds, which was great. But ultimately, we want to look at this Pacers team as well. We can look at seeing Tyrese Halliburton had a tremendous game for the Indiana Pacers, absolutely shooting lights out for them, having 26 points, 13 assists, 10 rebounds. Was there anyone on the Indiana Pacers that shocked you in this game?
To be honest, with this game, I was shocked about Buddy Hield, and Buddy Hield just showed that he's a true professional. In my opinion, Buddy Hield showed that he was a true professional. He's always ready to go. And I thought he was, and to be honest, this year, I thought he was going to be a non-factor because, he was getting ready to be traded. He was, there was a movement that the Pacers want to move on and get somebody else for him or get the picks back. But for him to be ready to go like this, I think he's the one that stood out to me. Another person that stood out to me is Tyrese Halliburton. Earlier today, I saw a tweet prior to the game that mentioned that he was going to be very ineffective, a prediction that he was going to be extremely ineffective against the Celtics because the Celtics were going to limit his assist ratio to under 8 assists. Obviously, that did not happen. He had 13 assists, which was great in that regard for him. Not great for us, but hey, I got to give him his props there, which is unfortunate, but which is interesting because the Celtics usually hold those types of guys, those types of point guards that are averaging more than 6 assists to their lower career, to their season lows typically. So I don't know where the Celtics had I guess they had a disconnect with defense, or, Tyrese had his night. 13 assists is a lot. And you only hope that Jayson Tatum and everybody else gets involved like that and takes that's like, hey, we need to play like that to get wins like this.
Exactly. When you sent that tweet about Alex Caruso talking about the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton, I was kind of shocked that they were so low on his assists, just because he's such a dynamic creator for this Indiana Pacers team, and this Pacers team is so young with all these other scorers as well. It's easier for Tyrese Halliburton to throw a couple lobs to Bennett Mathurin or Obi Toppin, or just find a nice pass to Miles Turner. It seems like it's easy for him to find those looks for those scorers to create. And like you said, Buddy Hield, like you mentioned, a guy that I also thought was going to be out on the wait on Indiana. They were trying to look for that Aaron Nesmith extension. They actually still got it done by keeping Buddy Hield, but that was still like a thing in the process as well. I expected Buddy Hield to be moved off of, but he had a big game. I have a question. I don't know if you saw the late fourth quarter 3 by Buddy Hield. What is your explanation to that compared to how Joe Mazzulla took that late game 3 versus the Raptors or whatever, and it was like a little bit of a scuffle, but now that when it happens to the Celtics, Joe Mazzulla says he doesn't really care about the 3.
Knowing Joe, he doesn't. Knowing Joe, I know he doesn't. It's basketball with those guys, and if you've been following Buddy Hield in with his college career to now, that's his signature is lethal end game threes. I mean, I've been watching Buddy Hield since he was at Oklahoma, destroying my Mountaineers. Yes, Celtics Digest fans. I'm a Mountaineers fan, so you can already tell where I am with the Celtics on that, and get on that way. So I'm with Joe. I wouldn't care. It's basketball. The in-season tournament is supposed to make basketball more interesting. So if you're trying to play like a pickup game or be like in the TBT where you're trying to do little strategies here, like to get the extra points, to try to get in, or to get in people's skin, hey, it's all hoop. At the end of the day, it's just some bump.
I totally agree. I just wanted to know your personal opinion on that, just because there was some back and forth with it between the Raptors in the past couple games where they felt it was unnecessary. So I just wanted to get some closure on that. Ultimately, though, the Celtics sadly lose to this game to the Indiana Pacers. Their next matchup will be coming up on Friday, where they take on the loser of the next in-season tournament game in the Eastern Conference between the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks. And we'll gear up for that video, which will be an exciting one. Hopefully the Boston Celtics can get a nice W, get a nice bounce back win. Do you personally think Kristaps Porzingis will be back for that Friday game, or do you think that they're going to rest him now that they're not going to go to Vegas?
Personally, if I was the Celtics, I'd rest them. Although the in-season tournament is nice and there's a lot of cash and money on the line, and there still is potentially. If you're playing New York, I wouldn't, because that's a division game. But if you're playing the Bucks, I would maybe rest them. But and like I said, this is a devil advocate argument. If I only say, hey, look, because the games still matter to the regular season, I would say rest them against the Bucks, but play them against New York because it's division. They're division. It's a divisional game, regardless whether in-season tournament or not.
I totally agree. I personally am leaning side more on the resting. I like you were saying. I think that it's better for the Celtics to go healthy into the next week, especially if we're already eliminated from the in-season tournament. There's still some cash prize that could still be won, but if it's not like a necessary game for them to move on to the final or something, I think the rest is best. The rest is best for Kristaps Porzingis. But that's what we're going to break down on this episode of Celtics Digest. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this post-game breakdown. Celtics need to fix those turnovers, that perimeter defense, and other things to benefit and be better. Hopefully they bounce back on this Friday game. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I'm Bruce Veliz, and for my co-host Isaac, thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.